has no idea what he just said. Very good morning, everyone. I like the energy. I don't understand, but I like the energy. Very good. Okay, so my name is Joseph. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, can you see? Sorry, give me a second. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, I'll start here. Hi. Sorry, slight technical problem. I am with a company called Dialog EDU. Dialog EDU is a US-based learning solutions company, specialized in cloud-based learning solution. We also provide a multi-tenancy solution for companies with a lot of departments, whereby the department each have their own learning requirements. We also provide courseware development and courseware consulting. A lot of clients, just like with Anna's team, we have instructional designers to help our clients develop courseware, e-learning courseware. And then we also help clients with implementation and integration. Right? When you're dealing with technology, there's a lot of integration. So I can talk a little bit more about that later on. At Dialog, we can also provide you over 30,000 curated courses, courseware, e-learning courseware. We work with many different partners to deliver the courseware. And just to share with you, Wahana is our local partner here in Indonesia for our solution. Now, personally about me, for myself, I have been in the e-learning, research-based, digital publishing business for almost 20 years. I've worked with a lot of universities in the region. I also work with a lot of government agencies and corporations in the region as well. Okay. So just a very brief background of me. Now, what I like to do during this discussion, I'd like to share with you 4 major topics. Right, I'd like to review the trends that has going on in the last 20 years. I've been through that 20 years, so you know how old I am. I think it's important to understand the trend, because when you understand the trend, then you understand what's coming, right? And then how to prepare for what's coming. And what's coming is basically the changing demands, right? We're seeing a lot of changes, especially after the pandemic, a lot of changes. Another area that I thought would be interesting for everyone, especially in the learning and development field, AI and data-driven decision making. These are 2 of the most fast-growing topic area, not just in L&D, but in so many other functions of an organization. And the last thing I want to talk about is what kind of solution you should be looking for that can help you right now and also help you in the future. Okay. Next, please. So what's been happening in the last 20 years? In the early 2000s, everyone is talking about digital adoption, right? Everyone started to have their own websites. Then after websites, you have e-commerce, right? And then you have a CRM solution, ERP solution. Everything starts to slowly go to the within the organization. You have your on-site CRM, your on-site ERP. So there's this digital adoption, massive digital adoption in the early 2000s. And then from 2000 to 2018, we start to see a shift, right? From digital adoption, it became digital transformation, right? People start to talk about user experience now. how to make the customer feel good when they are using the platform so that they can continue to use. Because if the experience is no good, they stop using, right? A lot of focus on user experience. Then suddenly there was an explosion of what? Cloud computing. AWS, right? Then Google had their own cloud. Alibaba got their own cloud. So many clouds starts to appear. And then from an application point of view, Uber became very popular. Gojek, Grab. All this is possible because of cloud computing, right? And then, of course, Netflix. Everyone knows Netflix. So without cloud computing, without that digital transformation, this kind of business will not be possible. And then 2019 came. We were faced with a pandemic, right? Very terrible time. Everyone got locked down. Company closed, school closed. But work still continue. School still continue. And then for some funny reason, we were able to digitally transform within 3 months. Something that we thought might take 5 years to do, 6 years to do. But within 3 months, we were able to move our business online. We were able to move our training online, our education online as well. So the point about this is it can be done. It can be done very quickly. What the pandemic has shown us is we can go digital very quickly if we want to. Now, what's interesting now is from 2023 onwards, what's going to happen? I think we kind of know what's happening. We have 5G coming. Actually, 5G is already here. And then we have AI. And because of the pandemic, there's a lot of new job redesign, right? Different talent models. A lot of companies started talking about building internal capabilities, academy capabilities, academy, yeah. Now, with this trend, it impacts what's going on next, right? So, what the research has shown is that nowadays, the workers are changing jobs a bit more frequently. They are not staying in the job as long as previously. They are moving from one job to another job faster, more frequent, right? And one reason is also because workers are also finding that they can move from one industry to another industry quite easily as well. Because a lot of organizations are now looking for skills, not domain. So if you are skilled in data analytics, you can work in factory, from a factory to a sales organization to a product organization, no problem, because you have the skills. So there is now an emphasis on skills, not so much on the domain, right? And domain can be taught in the organization. Big tech companies are also hiring a lot of people from all industry, which is creating some pressure on a lot of organizations, because now the big tech companies are competing with you for employees, for workers. Now, another thing research has found that is really interesting is, I'm not sure if you are familiar with this term called the gig economy. A gig economy is basically workers who are kind of self-employed. For example, Grab driver, Gojek drivers, food delivery, product delivery, logistics delivery, right? They have their own vehicle, their own business. They're happy doing it themselves. A lot of marketing people, graphic designers, for example, they don't want to work for any companies. They work for themselves, and then they get a lot of projects from the internet, right? This is what we call the gig economy. And what research has shown is the number of people in the gig economy is growing very fast because they want their independence. They don't want to work for any organization, right? Now, what's the point of saying all these things? All these things is really important because these are all forces that is going to impact hiring, right? So if you are a hiring organization or you're a talent manager hiring people, you got to know that it's going to be hard trying to hire people, because nowadays the new workers have so many places to go. They can even work for themselves, right? So what the research has shown is companies need to be, especially for the L&D team, they need to relook at training, because training is not just for new hires or existing hires, but training is also about moving from one person, from one position, one role, to a completely different role, right? Something to talk about in a while. So there is the focus on growth, not just for the job, for the career. There's a very strong focus on growth. So just to reiterate, competition for workers will be high, right? So now a lot of companies will have to look at insourcing, that means hiring from within, right? You can't find a person to fill this position, you may have to take another person from another department to fill this position, right? So training becomes really important to be able to make employees move side to side, right? There is also a greater emphasis on innovative learning. We are moving away, evolving from classical L&D now. We are leveraging more and more on technology to help deploy learning, right? And when you use technology to deploy learning, you can deploy learning faster and wider, in greater volume. One other thing is the use of AI to assist you to assist L&D to develop better training, right? I will show you some example later on. Very exciting times, especially for those of us in the L&D industry. Last but not least, data. Now we need data. We want to make good decisions. We need data. With data, we can then make better informed decisions. So the big question today is, are we capturing enough data? Is there a way that we are capturing data? So this is another thing to think about.
Saya sedikit mesampaikan apa yang disampaikan oleh Joe. Ya, jadi di depan tadi sudah dijelaskan dengan perubahan yang terjadi selama masa pandemi, membuat orang-orang tuh lebih cepat mengadopsi, ya. Jadi yang dia sampaikan tadi, misalnya kita dulu nggak kepikiran bahwa kita akan bisa menggunakan Zoom, ya, menggantikan classroom, mendadak semua orang bisa. Demikian juga dengan sekolah. Nah, di slide terakhir ini, Joe menjelaskan bagaimana landscape dari pembelajaran ini terjadi perubahan yang begitu besar, ya. Jadi tadi dikatakan bahwa workers itu makin kompetitif, makin tinggi. Karena apa? Tadi ada istilah gigs, ya. Jadi orang-orang sekarang banyak, terutama mungkin milenial, mereka berbisnis sendiri, ya. Padahal mereka orang-orang pintar yang harusnya bisa kita hire, tapi menjadi sulit karena apa? Mereka sekarang pengetahuannya jadi lebih cepat, ya. Mereka udah bisa berbisnis sendiri dan sebagainya. Nah, bagaimana mengatasinya? Maka perusahaan-perusahaan benar-benar harus bisa mengatasi dengan cara pembelajaran yang inovatif. Ya, itu salah satu cara supaya menarik, ya kan? Learning and development harus beyond cara kita yang lama dengan cara klasikal, yang dengan cara hanya dengan permainan-permainan biasa dengan tanpa ada perencanaan yang inovatif, itu akan membuat kita menjadi sulit mendapatkan talent-talent yang baik, right? Dan kemudian dengan cepatnya berubah, ya, apalagi dengan adanya AI, ya. Jadi cara pembelajaran dengan hybrid, ya, dengan cara sinkronus di mix dengan asinkronus, itu udah harus menjadi bagian dari cara pembelajaran kita. Nah, mungkin kemarin yang disampaikan oleh PLN tadi, ya, maupun Kemenko, ya, bahwa pembelajaran dengan cara menggunakan teknologi di mix, yaitu dengan cara hybrid. Hybrid ini sekarang ada banyak cara. Ada hybrid dengan menggunakan Zoom, di mix dengan classroom. Misalnya kalau untuk jarak yang jauh, kita bisa dengan classroom seperti yang kita lakukan kemarin. Dan kemudian sudah mulai memasukkan di dalam pembelajaran digital dengan konsep-konsep AI, ya. Sehingga kita bisa dibantu dengan AI ini untuk lebih cepat menyerap pengetahuan. Itu yang kita perlu cermati di dalam perkembangan teknologi pembelajaran. Ya. Nah, terakhir juga disampaikan oleh Joe, data ini sekarang menjadi penting. Ya. Jadi kita harus dengan melihat data dari karyawan sekian puluh ribu, kita harus tahu di mana kelemahan-kelemahan dari pengetahuan atau kemampuan dari karyawan. Itu sekarang data driven. Kita bisa dapatkan datanya dengan menggunakan sistem. Cuman bagaimana caranya itu yang harus menjadi strategi dari teknologi pembelajaran yang diterapkan di Korpu ataupun di Learning Center Bapak Ibu semua. Oke? Ya. Gitu.
Thank you. So one of the things I like to do also is to show you how you can optimize digital with digital learning. Everyone has a budget. How can you stretch your budget? How can you stretch your dollar, as we say? So one thing, again, experts have shown that when you look at your training requirements, right, you can broadly break into 4 areas: the general skills, the professional skills, domain-centric skills, something to do with your organization, and managerial leadership, executive training. You can break into these 4 different areas. And what experts found is under domain-centric area. So we're talking about things like compliance, regulation, onboarding of new employees, right? Processes, procedures. These are the kind of content that companies find very easy to go digital, right? And of course, there are some other areas that you can find. So when you look at the training that you're providing, you can study and then review what you can digitize, what you do not want to digitize. And when you do all this together, what you'll find is, combined with digital training and your instructor-led training, you will definitely be able to reduce your costs, right? So how do you optimize the cost saving? The more digital you have, the more cost saving you have. Now, it's also important to look at where corporate learning is going in terms of the changes and the evolution, right? We all started with traditional, right? We have classroom, instructor, very easy to manage. You have a class, student come to the class, you learn, you do a test, you get a attendance certificate, it's over. And then from traditional, we move into a hybrid or blended learning style teaching, whereby we have some e-learning and some classroom-based learning. Now, what's happening now is more and more companies are trying to push towards a full digital learning, so that try to take as little instructor-led as possible, as much digital as possible, especially for the very large organization. And there's also a switch. Instead of focusing on training for the job, they're looking at training for the skill, right? And with all this, how do we then move on to augment learning with AI? Because this is the next phase, right? And then how do we use AI to help us deliver better learning, faster learning? I will show you some example later. You'll be quite impressed with what AI is able to do. So just some example of AI application in learning. One of the things that we do, for example, when a student submit a paper or learner submit a paper, we can use AI to do the grading. We're not talking about multiple choice questions, we're talking about open-ended type questions, right? You submit the paper, AI do the grading, the result goes into the system, no human required, right? So grading becomes really fast. And then you can issue out the cert very quickly also. So this is one implementation that is already happening. Another good example for AI application in learning is using AI to build what we call dynamic learning pathway. Now, we can build a learning pathway for every employee, we can, right? But every employee learns at a different pace. Some learn faster, some learn slower. So we can actually use AI to create the path most optimized for each learner. So you don't have to learn at the same time. And it can also optimize things like what you should learn, because if you are skilled in some other areas, the AI can identify that this is what you're skilled at, you should learn this, or identify you're weak in this, so therefore you should learn something to cover that gap, right? AI can do all these things using AI. So when you have AI to build a dynamic learning pathway, you can imagine how much time you will save from the L&D perspective. Now this is something that is very new, very exciting. Another example, a great example of how AI can be used, can be applied in learning. There is this AI-powered courseware development product, right? It's a third-party product, by the way. All you have to do, like in this case, what I did was, I wanted to create a courseware to learn AI in 4 hours. That's the text I type in. I type in this text, learn how to create courseware using AI in 4 hours. I press next, and the AI created the courseware for me, with quizzes and everything. In about 5 minutes, they created a courseware for me. Very exciting, right? Now, so when you have tools like this, it empowers you as a learning and development professional, right? Because you can create content so quickly now. Now, what this means for courseware developers, there might be some concern over there because we might fear that AI can take over. I don't think so. I don't think we have to fear AI. I think we should look at AI as a tool to help us. Okay, we don't have to fear. But again, there are so many different types of AI application in learning. It's really amazing. Now, a few other areas I just want to quickly go through is you can also use AI to do curation. Curation is a big problem. Today, when you go on the internet, right, YouTube alone got millions of videos that are related to learning. But the problem is, how do you know what video is good for teaching what area, right? So there must be some curation required. Now, previous curation model is very simple. The author will create the content, try to put some tag, right? And then we use the tag as a way to create the categories. But if they don't put a tag, how do you do it? So AI can actually run through everything from videos to podcasts to webinars, any kind of object. It can go through, it can then create the curation by itself without any humans doing it. So this is something that is going to be very interesting as well. Dynamic adaptive learning, building pathway based on your interest and skill set. On-demand learning support. Imagine you have a 24/7 coach or mentor, right? If you're in the frontline service, you're having facing some conflict issues, you need help, you have a mentor you can ask. The AI will help you, right? So on-demand learning support is going to be, there are already companies starting to do this. So this is something that you will see very soon. Okay. So again, these are just some examples. There are a lot more examples to cover.
Okay, John.
Yeah.
Let me summarize some. Jadi tadi yang dijelaskan oleh Joe, ya, dengan adanya AI, ya, banyak hal yang bisa dibantu. Tadi ada disebut mengenai learning pathway. Bapak Ibu tahu learning pathway kalau dalam bahasa Indonesia apa? Ada yang tahu? Ya, kalau di dalam Korpu namanya learning roadmap. Ya, sama aja. Jadi kalau kita bikin learning roadmap kan kita ada jabatan apa, harus belajar apa aja, ya. Kalau kita sekarang yang standar kan kita udah buat, terus kemudian terjadi perubahan, ya. Jabatan tersebut dengan konten-konten pembelajaran yang harus dipelajari mungkin sudah berubah. karena ada disrupsi terjadinya. Nah, maka dibantu oleh AI, bisa dibantu dengan AI, supaya kita bisa meng-create lebih cepat, mendapatkan apa saja yang harus dipelajari oleh seseorang. Itu satu hal. Yang kedua yang disebut oleh Joe adalah adaptive. What did you say that? The terms is dynamic adaptive learning. Jadi kita juga harus bisa mengadaptasi pembelajaran secara dinamis. Artinya mungkin setiap orang dengan jabatan yang sama, kelemahan dan kekurangan seseorang itu selama ini kita nggak pernah analisa. Ya, dengan adanya sistem yang bagus, dia mau menceritakan dengan adanya sistem yang bagus, kita bisa lihat siapa sih yang butuh belajar apa. Ya, bukan hanya karena berdasarkan learning path-nya, tapi juga berdasarkan sifat-sifat atau kategori dari orang-orang yang ada di dalam kelompok tersebut. Nah, itu harus bisa didata, ya, kemudian dibuat summary-nya siapa yang harus belajar apa. Nah, itu yang dinamakan istilahnya dynamic adaptive learning, adaptive learning yang dinamis gitu ya. Nah, itu semua bisa dilakukan kalau mungkin kita menggunakan sistem yang lebih canggih gitu. Artinya dengan bantuan AI kita bisa mengakalinya ya. Tentu tools AI ini sekarang kan banyak beredar, nggak hanya ChatGPT tapi banyak sekali. Bahkan saya pernah lihat teman saya untuk bikin video aja, untuk bikin satu video animasi sudah bisa menggunakan aplikasi sejenis AI ya, tapi khusus untuk membuat video animasi. Nah, kita juga harus mencermati hal itu karena apa? Pembelajaran sekarang kalau buat milenial kalau ngantuk-ngantuk ngomongnya biasa-biasa saja udah pasti ditinggal ya, mereka nggak suka. Maka perlu juga terutama yang bergerak di dalam bidang learning and development mencari tools-tools yang bisa membantu membuat konten-konten yang sifatnya lebih dynamic, lebih menarik ya, atau menggunakan video, animasi dan sebagainya. Nah, itu yang mungkin akan ingin diajak oleh Joe supaya kita lebih mencari cara ya, tools, terutama dengan ada AI yang banyak sekali. Ya, mungkin Bapak Ibu yang sering buka Instagram sekarang banyak menawarkan ada sekian banyak AI tools ya, untuk gambar, untuk bikin pidato, untuk membuat PowerPoint, itu sih save aja. Kalau saya sekarang saya save. Kalau ada yang menawarkan begitu saya save, tapi jangan dibeli karena mungkin nggak semuanya bagus. Ya, kita harus pilih-pilih juga tools-tools tersebut ya. Ini di luar sistem e-learning, tapi yang jelas tools-tools itu kita harus cermati. Ya, tools AI ini sekarang banyak sekali. Ya. Oke.
Thank you. So I just want to touch on a little bit about data-driven decision making. Data-driven decision making is becoming very popular in every organization because you want to make good decision that is based on data. So in order to be able to do this, you must first harvest data. You must be able to capture data. When you capture the data, then you can study the trends, the patterns, you can run algorithms, you can do analytics, you can analyze, right? Then with this, then you can do a better informed decision, right? So ability to capture data is very important. That's where the platform comes in. So the only way to be able to capture data fast and automatically, you must have a platform, right? So any kind of platform that you have that can capture data will help you harvest data. And once you harvest data, you can do a lot with it. Okay. So I just wanted to highlight the importance of capturing data. Okay. If you have not already done so, please do so. Now the last thing I wanted to share with you is about platform. What kind of platform to look for? What kind of features you must be concerned about. Any platform is fine as long as it is scalable, meaning it can expand, and then it can extend. Extend meaning it can connect to other things, other applications, right? So almost every solution you see will have something similar. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But do understand that technology do evolve, technology change. Every moment, every month, every 6 months, every year, technology will upgrade, right? So the important thing is not to focus too much on the technology, but focus on what kind of extension the technology can give you. So interconnectivity is the answer. You want a platform that can interconnect with almost anything that you have. Your existing system and also future systems. So for example, when we talk about AI engines or AI algorithms are all sitting outside. These are all cloud-based products. So your system must be able to connect with all these different AI tools that's out there. So how do you connect? So there is a connector which we loosely call APIs. So when you have APIs, you can connect to so many things. One example, one good example is content. There are so many courseware providers out there, for example. And not only that, internally you are also producing a lot of content, right? So the system must be able to not only capture and manage the content created in-house, but it should also be able to connect with content that's created by third party that's outside. Maybe YouTube, or Udemy, for example, or LinkedIn Learning, for example, or so Open Sesame, so many different courseware providers out there, Skillsoft. How do you connect them? How do you build a catalog of all these products? Connectivity. API will help you do that. So with API, you can have a very huge courseware library that you can make available to your learners. Now, the connectivity also is not just about courseware. The platform needs to be able to connect, for example, to your human resource system, your payroll system. If you have a competency management system, it should, and it has to connect to the competency management system. If you have a courseware database from the previous slide, for example, right, you can also connect to the courseware database. Staff directory, single sign-on, Active Directory, CRM, your knowledge base, AI chatbot, all these things can be connected to the platform using API. So when you can connect like this, it means that your system can last a long, long time, right? So you don't have to keep changing every 5 years or 6 years or something like that. Right? So just bear in mind on connectivity, any platform is fine, but make sure that it has high connectivity capabilities. In summary, I just want to end by saying that we've learned a lot during the pandemic. The pandemic has shown us that we can go digital very quickly, very fast, if we want to. If the will is there, the leadership is there, we can make it happen. So the question is no longer about can we make it happen. The answer is yes, we can make it happen, right? We've also realized, again, from research, we know that corporate hiring, the hiring landscape has changed. It's going to become more competitive because of big tech companies, because of the gig economy, because of cross-traveling of workers from one domain industry to another industry. There's going to be a lot of competition for employees in the future. So companies have to relook at their training capabilities in terms of converting skills from one role to another role. Not just about improving that function, but moving from one function to another function. From marketing to sales, sales to customer service to operations, right? So the more fluid you are, the more flexible you are in doing this, the more adaptable you are, then you don't have to worry so much with the competition of employees in the marketplace. Now, AI, data analytics, will play a very big role in learning and development. So please put some focus into it, try to learn more about it. If you don't know about it and you want to learn, go online and use the AI to build a course for yourself. In 5 minutes, you can do that. Obviously, the last thing is you need new strategies and new solutions. You want to summarize before I
You finish first.
I finish first, okay. So I just want to say thank you everyone for having me here. It's a real pleasure. I really like the energy I saw. I don't understand Bahasa, sorry. I wish I could. It sounds really interesting. Wahana is our local partner here in Indonesia, so if you need any help regarding platform learning solutions, please talk to the team over here, or you can contact me directly, also fine. We would love to be part of your learning your L&D journey. Alright, so this is my contact information.
Okay, thank you. Terima kasih. Dan sebenarnya summary-nya sudah dibuat oleh Joe, ya. Jadi summary-nya belum berubah. Tolong Mas ke slide, ya. Ya, jadi ini summary-nya. Jadi dengan menerapkan digital learning atau learning platform, kalau kami di Wahana kita namakan learning platform. Ya, jadi platform untuk learning. Jadi yang sudah dijelaskan oleh Joe tadi, ya, apapun sistemnya, yang dua hal yang paling penting adalah bisa di scale, ya, scalable, sama di extend. Jadi bisa berhubungan sama sistem luar dengan menggunakan API, ya. Itu yang perlu kita terapkan di dalam pembelajaran digital, ya, dengan platform ini. Itu penting sekali. Jadi banyak perubahan yang sudah terjadi, terutama yaitu AI sama data analitik ini sekarang perlu kita cermati benar-benar yang bisa diterapkan di dalam pembelajaran, ya. Karena begitu sejak pandemi terjadi, begitu dinamisnya perubahan-perubahan yang terjadi, sehingga talent-talent ini pun kita harus benar-benar bisa isi, ya, dengan pengetahuan-pengetahuan dan skill set yang sesuai dengan kebutuhan. Oke, mungkin saya buka sesi pertanyaan. 1, Bapak, 2, 3, 4. Tadi satu siapa yang Bapak, ya? Bapak pertama, terus kedua, ketiga, keempat, kelima. Oke, yang sana dulu. Pak siapa dengan Pak siapa mungkin?
Yes, my name is Agus Ramati from Bank DKI. My first question is about just back to your challenges and the trend that you just mentioned just now. Is there any way how can corporate university can take benefit from AI development or ChatGPT?
Right.
Should each corporate university has developed or own their own IT platform, or is there any more practical or efficient way so that maybe we can cooperate or make an ecosystem together? That's the first one. The second one is about, in Indonesia, we're not starting at the same positions. So the level of the literacy or digital literacy is not the same. So we're not starting from the same point. So do you have any recommendation? How can we increase or expand our digital literacy and also mindset, digital literacy and digital mindset literacy? You know what I mean, maybe, especially on the teacher learning or the development. Thank you.
Thanks. Very good questions. These are the questions we hear all the time. There is no right answer. Now, to your first question regarding the use of AI. The use of AI, the incorporation of AI should be looked upon by connecting to them rather than trying to implement in-house, because there are so many AI engines out there, right? So, for example, courseware development, there are tools out there that can help you build courseware, right? You don't have to implement in-house. These are all on the cloud. You just have to connect to them. ChatGPT is something that I think many of us have tried. But imagine if your system can talk to ChatGPT without a human. I mean, if your system can talk to ChatGPT, right, without the user even knowing. So how do you do that? So again, the key is the connectivity point that I mentioned. So the use of API. So once your system has the API capability, your system can actually connect to all these different AI services. You don't have to build yourself. right? When you connect, it's so much faster. You can implement like almost overnight. Does that answer your question? Second is mindset. Mindset is about culture. So change implementation is one of the most challenging things in any projects, in learning as well. Changing mindset is a gradual thing. You can, of course, there are many tried and tested models. Let me share with you in my personal experience in relation to academic digital learning. In academic digital learning, there's a publisher. There's a publisher called Wiley. I'm not sure if you have heard of this publisher before. There are a few: Wiley, Pearson, McGraw-Hill. These are academic publishers. They publish textbooks, right? The print textbooks that we use for the longest time at the university. Now, what Wiley, Pearson, and McGraw-Hill has done is they are cutting out the print textbook. Now they're telling the teacher, if you use my textbook, you have to buy the electronic version of the textbook, which is the courseware. Right? The content is inside, the test bank is inside, the teaching material, everything is inside this courseware. So what we are seeing is when they kind of push the school to adopt this solution, all of a sudden the students and the teachers start using it. They start using it. But if you give the teacher a choice for using textbook, if you give a choice to for using textbook, the teacher will continue to use textbook, the print textbook. But once you take away that choice, they have no choice, right? They have to use the courseware. And the interesting thing is, once they start using the courseware, they become comfortable. They realize that it is a lot more efficient, more effective. Then they will start to push for it themselves. So I think that's maybe one thing we can do when it comes to cultural change. We may have to take a step to kind of push the trainer or the learner towards that direction. Okay.
Penanya kedua, ya. Masih ada?
You know, in Singapore, I think everything is already in place, in technology and also in the mentality.
Yes.
But the problem in Indonesia, for example, like this, when we deliver something in Zoom meeting,
Yes.
or deliver in electronic way, something like that, and then teaching learner using Zoom or using LMS, and then the mentality of the participants sometimes quite different. The level of seriousness is quite different.
Yes.
Now, how do you discipline them? How you make them as it's really just not different with the real time, for example, like that. So maybe the transition, maybe you can also share what this was.
Yeah, the transition, to be honest with you, as I said earlier on, there's no right answer, because it's very difficult to kind of force people to do something that they don't want. So I think the best way is to let them try it and let them get comfortable with it. Over time they will adapt. It just takes time. With regards to that, I have a sales partner in Malaysia, right? Before the pandemic, every time when we want to do a Zoom meeting with the client in Malaysia, my sales partner in Malaysia has to drive to the client's place, open his laptop, activate Zoom for the client, in order for me to Zoom with the client, right? The client doesn't want to do it. But when the pandemic happened, the client, now because there's no choice, the client suddenly have to learn how to use Zoom on his own, right? So it's a very difficult question, because this again is the cultural thing. We try not to force people to do something that they don't want to do, but I think the best way is to just give them time and try to keep encouraging them. Again, there's no right answer to this.
Oke, Jo. Ya Pak, nanti bisa bisa tanya langsung dengan Pak Jo atau dengan kami. Tadi saya udah diingatkan timekeeper. Satu lagi deh. Mohon maaf nih yang lain. Ya, Bapak dulu deh.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Alwin. Excuse me, Mr. Joe, my question in Indonesian. Ya. Mungkin nanti Pak Alwin bisa men-summarize. Langsung saja Pak Alwin. Terkait dengan model learning kita saat sekarang ini, mungkin banyak yang melaksanakan blended learning ya. Blended learning yang 70, 20, 10. Nah, kalau 10, 20 mungkin kita sudah familiar ya, dan mungkin sudah tradisional itu kayak kita lakukan. Nah mungkin ini untuk yang 70 bagaimana kita bisa untuk mengimplementasikannya. Mungkin Joe, any question, any suggestion untuk implementasi 70 itu modelnya, template-nya, atau hal apa yang bisa kita terapkan pada dalam proses blended learning sehingga itu bisa implemented sekali dan juga bisa berpengaruh benar-benar yang experiential itu 70 itu bisa berpengaruh kepada dampak dari atau impact dari learning. Mungkin demikian. Terima kasih.
Yes. 10, 20, 70 learning model. What 10, 20 is okay. Do that, but 70 with experience learning. Do you have any experience how to implement?
The 70% is related to kind of on-the-job kind of training, right? When you're working in the environment, the 70% is a very interesting question because we are working on a project in Singapore with a hospital. And what the hospital wants is when the nurse is doing something, they want to make sure that the nurse is doing it correctly, right? But they do not. So currently, what happens is when the nurse is, let's say for example, doing a bandage. So the nurse supervisor is standing there, thinking, is she doing it correctly? Is she following the procedure? Everything is done on paper. This information on paper is then transferred to the L&D team. The L&D team will then convert to electronic, then goes into the system. And after the nurse has done the process, let's say, I think the number is like 20 times, and they do 20 times without any mistake, then they certify the nurse that she is good in doing bandage, right? So there is this thing that is going on. So one of the things that we're talking, so this is the kind of 70% whereby is on the spot live. Now, what the hospital want is how do we convert this to digital, right? It's a very challenging problem because you don't want to be using a phone just, the nurse is doing her work and you're just recording her, right? So there are a few things that we have been thinking of. For example, one way is wearing like the Google glasses with a camera. So while the nurse or the clinical technician or even the doctor or junior doctor, when they're doing their work, we can have an inconspicuous camera that can record, right? And then when we're recording, we are kind of digitizing the entire process. And then that process, if there's a mistake that goes on, is recorded, and then we can identify the mistake digitally, and then can feedback to the person who has made a mistake for him to learn, or for him or her to learn that, hey, I've made a mistake here. So don't make the same mistake again, right? So different types of skills, different type of function will be different. So we have to be creative in terms of trying to digitize that component. Yeah, I know the answer may not completely respond to what you're thinking of, but we do need to have some creativity to find a way to do the digitization process for learning. Yeah.
Oke, jadi pada prinsipnya bisa didigitalisasi, Pak. Jadi misalnya dengan menggunakan feedback or use Google Glass, sehingga bisa direkam. Tapi yang jelas itu assignment, Pak. Tugas assignment di mana pendampingnya bisa memasukkan komennya, feedbacknya terhadap anak-anak yang lagi OJT. Nah, tapi menggunakan e-learning, menggunakan platform, sehingga tidak no need to input dengan dicatat di kertas, tapi si pendampingnya itu di body-nya ini bisa langsung memberi input feedback. Anak ini udah lakukan dengan baik atau enggak. Mohon maaf Bapak Ibu, ternyata saya diingatkan berkali-kali. Jadi ada 4 pertanyaan, mungkin nanti karena kita udah ada grup, bisa ditanyakan di grup. Enjo dan kami juga bisa bantu menjawab kalau ada pertanyaan. Memang mengenai platform learning ini memang menarik sekali ya Bapak Ibu. Apalagi sekarang dengan adanya Korpu yang semakin dinamik, udah next generation Korpu, seperti yang ditulis di bukunya Bu Ana. Memang kita harus banyak berkreasi dengan alat digital, dengan aplikasi, dengan software, dengan berbagai tools yang ada. Tapi yang jelas Bapak Ibu mulai mencermati ke arah sana, ya, sehingga kita bisa menjadi lebih cepat dalam memberikan learning. So Joe, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mari kita tepuk tangan untuk Pak Joe. Dia juga dekat, nggak jauh karena hanya ada di Singapura. Kami sebagai perwakilannya. Untuk menutup sesi ini saya bacakan pantun lagi. Pergi mancing ke pantai Pangandaran, pakai mobil untuk putar-putar, pakai e-learning membantu pembelajaran agar pegawai semakin pintar. Terima kasih atas perhatiannya.